watch the video, only pause the music. Watch it as I eat. I haven't seen it. It's new to me, right? I've only heard about it, but let's check it out. Let's check it out.
Time I'd look at fighting games and I'd say,
Ooh,
that
Schlumpy.
looks so cool, but I don't think it's for me. I had done some casual button mashing, but I never dove into the deeper mechanics. When I saw the gulf between what I was able to do and what others were doing,
Let's go,
I
Paul.
told myself there was no way I'd ever be able to get there. Then, a few years ago, I decided to try for real. Was it worth it? Yes. I can tell you without exaggeration that fighting games have brought me more joy than anything else I've put my gaming hours into. It's a distinct category of enjoyment unto itself, constructed from the greatest pleasures of gaming, the childlike joy of hitting buttons and seeing cool shit happen, the slow burn tension of outmaneuvering an opponent in a strategy game, the dark
The euphoric feeling people get when they land a combo they've been practicing for hours, for days, even weeks on end. The euphoric feeling people get when they hit that combo in tournament, online, or just on another player, even in the lab, people, it's amazing. If you've been there, you'll know what I mean, right? You spent days, hours practicing something, and then you're able to do it. Granted, that feels great in every game, right? But it's just a little bit more special in fighting games, right? It's a little different. It's hard to explain as to why, but it's kind of just seeing the labor of all your work laid out in front of you.
Dark Souls satisfaction of studying a boss's patterns and exploiting their weaknesses. It's meditative, it's rhythmic, it's sports, it's therapeutic, it's communal. It's the closest you're ever going to come to feeling like Rocky or your favorite shonen protagonist. It's made me happier, and it's made my brain feel better. It is absolutely worth it. But it takes a lot of work, and looking at that from the outside can be overwhelming and intimidating. This guide is for people who have been stuck.
Yeah, for some reason, fighting games are very intimidating to people, which I understand. You know, you're by yourself. There's no one there with you, unless you have like a coach or a buddy. But once it says fight, it's just you out there, baby. No one there to carry you.
Here's my 10-step guide for getting into fighting games without losing your mind.
Step 1. Decide you want to do it.
This one's kind of obvious, but it's also essential. Your desire to get into fighting games is going to be the thing that fuels you through the hard stuff. If you're fighting game curious, but you're not sure if you're ready to take the dive.
Fighting game curious. I'm sorry, that just made me giggle a little bit.
There is some other stuff you can do to gradually expose yourself. For starters, watch some matches. It's really exciting to see the top players just going nuts. Here are some of my favorites. Goichi versus Sonic Fox at EVO 2018.
That's a good one.
It's like an unstoppable force versus an immovable object. Goichi's defense is like an iron wall, but Sonic Fox's offense is just relentless. You know that Sonic Fox is going to do some work as soon as they get an opening.
As a fighting game player that knows how Sonic plays, Sonic will just do shit at the highest level. Plus frames? Fuck it. I'm mashing. As someone who's played Sonic, I understand. They will YOLO. Alright, moving on.
If you're in the mood to chill and watch some super thoughtful, accessible video essays about the underlying mechanics and philosophies of fighting games, pop on Gerald Lee, aka Core A Gaming. My
Good
personal
channel.
favorite is Why Button Mashing Doesn't Work. Also, follow some fighting game people on Twitter and Twitch and stuff. There's a lot of people doing really interesting streams.
Majino, man. If you don't follow Martin Obama, go follow him right now. Here's your Steve, too.
Really interesting streams and posting funny clips that are going to make you want to play.
Whose idea was it to make his pubes his legs?
We hear the man's trying to deck you with the refrigerator. You thought it was, but he unplugged that shit off the
Pepsi
wall.
Man.
There will be a lot of in-jokes and terminology you don't understand, but you'll pick it up soon enough through context clues. And if you need a helping hand, check out the infill.net fighting game glossary. They have explanations of
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a glossary for all of the terms and definitions, right?
Step 2. Pick a game.
A frequently asked question among the fighting game curious is, what's a good fighting game for a new player? And the definitive answer is literally whichever game you're interested in.
That is not true at all. That is not true. Wait, I'm going to stop you right there, Chief. some games are harder than others. Much harder than others. Alright? If you pick up Marvel 3, Marvel 2, right? You're gonna have a bad time. Right? It's gonna be mad hard, mad difficult. These games are so dated, especially with their training mode. Right? Street Fighter 5 is like well, I mean, for the lack of a better term, it's the Ryu of fighting games. It's very vanilla. It's very straightforward. It's slow paced. Super easy to jump into, right? Hold on. My guy. I hope he backpedals a little bit, because yes, you could pick up any fighting game, but results may vary. And when I mean results, I mean your fun in them. You know, I'm not saying don't do it, but this train of thought is not the best, because if somebody's not having a good time because they're getting their ass handed to them in Marvel 3, right? Dragon Ball, right? Persona, you know, Guilty Gear, you know, because these games aren't very straightforward. There's a lot to learn. They're very overwhelming at the start, as opposed to Street Fighter, which is a very straightforward fighting game, right? It's probably the most vanilla straightforward fighting game ever.
I'm so serious about this. You need to follow your heart. Look at gameplay trailers, watch some big matches. Whichever game makes you feel the spark is the one that you should chase. That spark will be what fuels you when things get hard. I love martial arts cinema and pro wrestling, so for me, the game that grabbed my attention was Tekken. The pace of animation is a bit slower than the stuff in 2D fighters like Street Fighter or Guilty Gear, so it was kind of like watching a choreographed fight scene from the movies in wrestling.
Tekken's okay to get into, yeah. Well, no, hold on. Tekken's got like 100 moves per character, so like I said, you could look at Tekken and be like, this game is tight, and then you look at the move list, and then you're just overwhelmed, you know? Massively. Granted, most characters only use like 20 to 30 moves in that move list. Still, though, it's very overwhelming. Having to know 20 to 30 moves per... How many characters are there in Tekken? Like 40? 50? There's a lot to it. You know, it could be very discouraging, right? So just try to make the process as best as possible, but you could just... It's growing pains, basically.
I understood that King did a sick running power bomb, and I loved to see it. You gotta find your
Mario.
point. You like anime? You like nasty gore? You like ponies? Get it. But while you're following your heart, you do need to pay attention to one annoying wrinkle. Because of the old COVID, you're mostly going to be playing online, and not all games have great net play.
Oh, he's gonna say it.
Games that use
He's gonna say it.
Netcode response times
Hold
can
on.
be sluggish. The good news is that if you're new, you probably won't know what you're missing out on until you taste that crisp offline stuff. If you know that you're mostly going to be playing online, consider choosing a game with rollback.
Ah, he said the buzzword!
Rollback is an ingenious net play solution that pretty much eliminates the sluggishness inherent to online fighting games. If you want a cool explainer on how it works, check out this video by Core A Gaming. Here are some games with pretty good netcode.
Okay, I like the rollback coming soon on Dragon Ball. Good. I would say Dragon Ball is hard. Guilty Gear, I'm sorry, Fighting Herd's hard to get into. Skullgirl's hard to get into, right? MK pretty standard. Guilty Gear, for the most part, standard. I can't speak of KI. I don't know much about KI. Dragon Ball, hard game to get into.
If you're not sure if a game has
What up,
rollback,
Buck?
just Google it, and you'll either find a bunch of blog posts like Punch Kicker adds rollback, or a bunch of Reddit threads like, how come Punch Kicker doesn't have rollback?
Step 3, gearing up.
Chillin', homie.
Another common question is, what do I need to start playing fighting games? And the
The
good
game
news
and a
is
control?
if you play other types of games, you're good to go. You need a console or a PC and a controller, and that's it. Also, a good internet connection. More on that later. You might think you need a big fancy fight stick, but there's really no direct correlation between performance and equipment. Lots of the best players in the world grew up using readily available console controllers and still absolutely kill with them. And the skills and knowledge you develop using one type of controller are totally transferable. There's just a short recalibration period where you need to develop some new muscle memory. That said, if you have the resources and the inclination, fight sticks can be a lot of fun. They're tactile and hefty.
You have a
and they make
bad top?
good
Oh, you're a
noises.
Tekken player for sure.
So let's talk about them. Most of the sticks you'll find are
That's a ball top.
square game,
Yeah.
meaning the joystick moves around in a square frame. It makes it easy to lock in important fighting game positions like down back. You can just physically feel it. Another less common configuration
The
is
octagon.
back top K lever.
Oh.
These ones don't have a gate and they use a rubber grommet to return to the neutral position. The result is that they're a bit spongier and you gotta be more precise with your inputs. Unless you're planning to go
I think
all
that's
in on
JDCR's
Tekken and
hands.
grew up on these, I'd steer clear for now. Finally, hitbox style controllers replace the joystick with more arcade buttons. They take some getting used to, but they allow for extremely precise inputs. But maybe the biggest benefit is that they're pretty damn ergonomic. Cranking on a fight stick can stress out your shoulders and fingers. My elderly thumbs don't have what it takes to mash on a D-pad anymore. A hitbox is comfy, and it lets you nail your inputs without straining. Most controllers work with PC and one type of console. If you ever plan on attending a local event, I'd suggest going for a controller that will work with the PS4. That's what they're going to be using there. Tuning your control setup is fun, and it can become a hobby of its own. But the biggest message I want to give you is do not gear gate yourself. But let's talk about a real boundary.
Step 4. Pipe check.
If your connection to your opponent is not steady, you're simply not going to have a nice time playing with each other. You'll be more likely to biff your execution, but more importantly, it'll just be sluggish and jittery. So, most of the online fighting game community adhere religiously to the Ethernet cable.
Yes,
because
very much
direct
so.
wiring takes a big failure point out of the networking pipeline. The anti-Wi-Fi sentiment online is severe enough that it will affect your experience. Lots of games have Wi-Fi indicators, and opponents are...
That is not true. And the Wi-Fi indicator on Tekken is trash. Or I guess the netcode detector indicator is trash on Tekken. It's god awful. No, that is not true. No.
less likely to accept a match with you if they're worried that you'll have a dodgy connection. That means you should get wired up. When I had roommates, I would run cable down my hallway when I was playing and then coil it up when I was done, so our common spaces weren't a conflict.
Yeah, when I was in the upstairs room, I had like a 150-foot cable running from the main house all the way up to my room, so I would not be on Wi-Fi. It's go buy a 50-foot cable, go buy a 75-foot cable. Don't be the what's his name, Tony Hune from Multiverses that says Wi-Fi is okay when their servers don't even work that well. Yeah, don't be that guy. Don't say just be close to the router, bro. I can't believe a professional dev actually said that. Like, Wi-Fi is never a good idea for any fighting game, ever. Literally, ever, ever, ever. Alright? Ever.
Instant tripping hazard. This might involve some negotiation and compromise.
I can't believe a dev
Absolutely worth it.
co-signed Wi-Fi when they have worse netcode than Ultimate. Okay, it's not worse, but it's close enough.
Who are some good characters for new fighting game players? The answer, regardless of the game, is whoever you think looks cool.
No, not true. You are not gonna tell somebody to play Brian from Tekken. All right, you're not gonna get taunt jet uppers, bro. Like, a taunt jet upper is so important for Brian in Tekken. It's no, bro. No, you're not gonna tell somebody to play Nappa. You're right. Or Modok and Marvel. Dude, sorry, but no, big guy. Sorry, big fella. Right? That's not true. Because you're gonna have no reward for playing these characters. You're just gonna be turned off. And the reason being is that they're just so difficult when you if you're brand new to fighting games, start with the very basic vanilla character. We call them the Ryu of the game, right? Because Ryu from Street Fighter, you know, quarter circle forward, right? Fireball, punch button, simple character, not complicated in any capacity. If you start with a complicated character, you're not going to have any return of investment. It's just going to be way too hard.
Once again,
I got to Tekken playing Steve, and it's because that's what made the game fun enough for me to want to learn it. I mean, were you new to fighting games, Zeno? And also, for the record, there is the exception to the rule. Obviously, that goes for everything. But for most people, you're not going to have a good time if you pick the most difficult character in the game. Like, go play Karo and Blaze Blue and then come back and be like, damn, I had fun. You're not going to have fun if that's your first character ever in a fighting game.
and you don't always have to pick the Ryu of the game to learn the fundamentals.
That's hilarious. We literally have two polar opposite opinions. The reason I state this is because if you play the Ryu of the game, you learn the game, You learn inputs, you learn motions, you learn movement, you learn the basic stuff, right? You know, just take a couple days to get a feel for the game. You know, don't be a. This is a huge mistake that a lot of players do. All right, here we go. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about right now, right? It's like you pick the complicated character and you try to go for the hardest shit that they could do because you think this looks cool. I want to do this because it's cool, but you can't do any of the cool stuff yet. You know, you have to do the basics. You have to learn to crawl before you learn to walk and then run. And you know, I was talking about taunt jet upper with Brian. Yeah, right. You don't learn your good buttons, your basic combos, your space, and your punish game. You go straight for the hard shit. You skip everything, and you go straight for the hard shit.
For example, when I started Tekken 7, I played King, because I liked that he was a huge kitty cat man who did all my favorite wrestling moves. He's a great character, but he also has a big, bloated moveset that he's picked up over decades of Tekken games. He's got some complicated inputs, and as a grappler, he approaches combat differently from most of the roster. But I liked him. I liked the way his moves looked, I liked his vibe, so I had the motivation to put in the work. Later, when I picked up Guilty Gear Strive, I went with Soul Bad Guy. Because
Good intro
he's
choice.
kind of the Ryu of that game, and he was really strong at it.
Nah, son, the Ryu of this game is the Kai. Soul will beat your ass. Well, not anymore, but I think the Ryu of Strive is Kai. But anyways, we'll move on.
At the time, I thought that having a high-tier character who exemplified the fundamentals of that series would help me learn. So I tried for a while, and then I fell off and told myself maybe Guilty Gear wasn't for me.
No, they don't random
A few
win.
months later, I came back and I tried the character who I really wanted to play all along, and it all clicked. I loved looking at my little guy. I loved his gigantic hands and his booty drop. And I love busting. So I was motivated to play and learn. Don't let tier lists or meta discussions dissuade you early on. Pick who you think looks cool.
True
I
for the most
literally
part.
cannot say this enough.
Step 6. Learn how to play.
But again, right, at least learn the fundamentals of the game before you go for the super technical character where you don't even know how to play the game. And now you're working like 3 times as hard, right?
Once you've selected your little guy, hop into training mode and start hitting buttons. See what they do. See how it feels. Some games like Guilty Gear Strive and Mortal Kombat have decent tutorials that explain fighting game fundamentals and include challenges to test your knowledge. Any fighting game worth playing will also have a full command list in the start menu. If you like what you're feeling, hop on.
This is just a personal thing. I love how I included DNF, even though DNF has one of the worst training modes I've ever seen in my fighting game career, ever. It's abysmal. One of the worst. Moving on.
Onto YouTube and search for some character guides. This is a really cool thing about fighting games. They are complicated. There are hurdles to overcome, but that complexity is also what makes them so satisfying and fun to play. And people want other people to share in that fun, so they'll put in hours and hours and hours of work to make wonderful guides. Character guides are great.
I have a couple guides
Looking
up.
at your move list in a game is helpful, but it doesn't instruct you on the overall strategy for that character. A good guide will highlight the most important tools your character has and how to use those tools to win. When you watch a guide, don't expect to internalize everything all at once.
True.
That's a
Information
ton of
overload.
information, and it's just not realistic. I've watched the same guides over and over again over the course of weeks, months, and even years. In terms of written resources, that's going to depend on the game you're playing. Guilty Gear and other ArcSys games have comprehensive guides on dustloop.com.
Yeah, great
A lot
resource.
of Tekken info is in Google spreadsheets that get passed around on Reddit. Figuring out where your game lives online is just a matter of Googling. A few days after I picked up Tekken, I got on Twitter and posted a video of me hitting King's most basic, unoptimized combo. I did it, I might have said, and a passing commenter might have asked, did what? This will be a pattern that repeats over your time in fighting games. You're going to put a lot of...
Well, yeah, don't discourage people when they post a combo or something that like took them forever to do, right? Like even if I see somebody do a basic combo, I'm like, cool, that's tight. Even though I know I can do the combo first try, no sweat. It's a basic VB, be like, sick, you did it. Encourage each other. That's why I'm encouraging you to invest your time correctly and not play the hardest character in the game or one of them until you have a basic understanding. And then you can do whatever you want. Spend a couple days with the hyperbolic time chamber learning how the game works, and then go have fun, frolic, and play who you want. But don't discourage each other. Alright? We don't have enough people in the community to do that. as it is.
Of effort into mastering things that to outsiders appear inconsequential and to experts insignificant. But that doesn't
Hey,
mean
they
it's
did a
not
sick
an
combo,
accomplishment.
Renz.
Good
Just
job.
educate them
But
correctly.
nailing combos only accounts for a tiny, tiny percentage of what goes into playing a match.
You're right.
And the only
You're right,
way to
Ramler.
start figuring that out is to fight.
Step 7. Fight a human.
Sitting here on this screen for the first time can be scary. I mean, maybe not for you, maybe you're some sort of real fucking cool guy. But for me, not knowing what would happen when I hit that matchmake button was nerve-wracking. Another real human being is about to see you fumble around with your buttons and drop your combos and forget to block in real time. But it's okay. It'll be fine. As intimidating as that human-to-human connection is, it's also absolutely core to the joy of fighting games. Ranked matchmaking tracks your performance and skill using a bunch of different metrics, then attempts to match you against opponents of the same skill level. Usually there's some sort of meta progression here.
Not a very
as you
good
earn
attempt.
new titles
Fighting
or
games have the
badges,
worst
or, in
matchmaking
the case of
system
Strive,
ever.
literally move towards the top of a tower.
No fighting game has a good
The
matchmaking
obvious
system.
pro here is that as a new player, you should be paired up with other new players, so you'll actually have a chance of winning, and winning feels good. The con is that even when you're fighting for fake online points, that sense that you're being evaluated changes everything. Getting bumped down a level after a losing streak can be really demoralizing. It also changes the behavior of your opponents.
Still haven't transcended humanity, huh? You lack discipline.
Separating your self-worth from your performance can be tough.
Whoa,
It
she's
makes
buff.
some people act really
Whoa.
silly. It can cause
Them
people to get
graphics,
obsessive
though.
about their win rates.
Dude,
They
let
might
the
duck
shit
into
out of her.
matchmaking if you play a character that they have a hard time against. They might bail out of a set the moment they lose. They might
Yeah.
send you nasty messages.
Uh-huh.
Quick tip on this if you're worried about getting shit from toxic players. Lock down your message settings ahead of time. Now, I know I just listed
Nah, listen, that's like one of the best things about fighting games is the toxicity, the hate mail you get. Like, if you whoop someone's ass so bad that they send you shit-talking messages, you feel good about yourself. It's a great feeling, right? You put this person down so bad that they took time out of their day to try to grab your attention. That's tight. You feel good, bro. This is the closest we'll get to proximity chat, man, because people are snowflakes and they got rid of proximity chat.
The other option is unranked. Here, the matchmaking will just stick you with another player. Any other player. Or you'll meet up in some sort of virtual arcade
Exactly,
setting.
Zeno.
Unlike ranked play, there's no digital clout on the line, so people are much more likely to play long sets. That's a good thing. In fighting games, even at the highest level of play, there's always an adjustment period between opponents. Pro players have the knowledge and experience to tune up quickly, but for beginners it takes longer. Let's say your opponent is using a technique that keeps blowing you up. You might not have time to run to a website and look up the frame data, but in a long set, you do have more opportunities to rummage through your toolkit and try to find something that'll solve your
I like that he parried instead of blocked it. My man skipped the steps. Sorry, this is funny.
problem. And if you find a solution, you have the chance to test it out repeatedly and start burning it into your muscle memory. The most obvious downside to unranked matchmaking is that you might get paired up with somebody who is way, way better than you.
Yeah,
That's not
that
really
happens.
a downside in my opinion. Losing 20 matches to a very experienced player is a great way to learn. You learn which of your
That's not true. That's not true at all. If you're getting absolutely steamrolled by a much better player, you're not learning anything. The only thing you're learning is how to take an ass whooping. They're doing so many things that you as a like mid to low level player, you don't understand what's happening, right? You don't know why they're winning. You just know they're winning, but you don't know why. You can't sit there and be like, oh, okay, they insta-blocked here, so then they were able to throw punish me. You'll just be like, damn, what happened? He threw me. You know, she threw me. That's not true. Playing somebody far above your skill level could be actually detrimental and stunt your growth.
and you'll see something that you are very unlikely to see in the beginner ranks. The power of not pressing buttons. When I started playing unranked Tekken, I would fight opponents who felt like absolute brick walls. They would just block, punish, and whiff punish. Every loss was the result of me overextending and using unsafe options. So I tried to emulate their style, and gradually I got better. I still love hitting buttons though. Anyways, both ranked and unranked are valuable. If you stop having fun with
Well, Zeno, this is targeted for people who are new to fighting games, so I'm just trying to explain that if you're new at fighting games, right, there's no point in playing somebody who's far better than you. You're just gonna get your ass whooped. You're not gonna know why you're getting your ass whooped, right? Even if you're like at kind of like the mid-low level, like still, you don't know what's happening. You don't have answers. You're not gonna look at something and be like, oh, okay, yeah, he frame trapped me here. You might not even know what a frame trap is. You might not even, especially if you don't know frame data.
You lose.
Isn't it
God, I
past
wish that
bedtime?
was me.
At the
Going
end
to
of a
bed.
fighting game match, you win
What?
or
I mean-
you lose. There's no teammates to blame for not pulling their weight. There's no XP meter sliding up to reward you for your participation. You will, beyond a shadow of a doubt, lose a lot. Self-doubt and frustration can feel overwhelming when you're in the thick
Spitting.
of it. But it is all a part of the process of getting better.
Rolling
So
paragraph.
here are a few tips for getting through it. Separate your self-worth from your performance. Okay, I know this is
Box
kind of
shift.
like saying stop being mentally ill, but it still needs to be said. You are not your win-loss ratio. Getting demoted doesn't mean you suck as a person, even if it feels that way. And if you start feeling that way, it's time to take a damn break. Taking
Yeah.
a break doesn't just let you cool off, it makes you better. When your hands are off the joystick and you're doing something else, your brain keeps gently churning on those situations, looking for the solutions that you couldn't find in the heat of the moment. Your body is rewiring neuron pathways to make your execution smoother and better. Playing fighting
If
games
my doctor is thinking about undernighted birth, oh, bro, give me a new
find in
doctor.
the heat of the moment.
What do you
Your
mean
body
you
is
about to
rewiring
cut me
neuron
open,
pathways
dude?
To make your execution
Circumcise me, and you thinking about? Is that under night? What game is that? Is that Melty Blood? I can't tell. I can't tell.
smoother and better.
I think it's Melty. I think that's Melty, right? I think that's Melty Blood. If my doctor thinking about why they got smoked in Melty Blood, bro,
Playing
nah.
fighting games feels a bit more like a traditional skill-based hobby like playing guitar. There's a base level of effort and self-direction. You need to get enjoyment out of it.
Ooh,
That means
nice
that
no
you
slide.
won't always have the mental energy to do it. And that's okay, don't force it. A break from fighting games can be a couple hours or a couple months. The games will still be there.
That's
when you
your
get
baby
back,
now,
and your
Jordan.
body will remember what to do. Watch replays. God, this one is so hard. It's like hearing your voice in a recording or seeing yourself on video. Do I really do that? You do, but it's so valuable and you can't neglect it. Most fighting games keep a log of your most recent matches with the ability to play them back. You should take advantage.
T-girl
Seeing yourself play
Tommings.
can help you recognize
How do people think of
habits
these
that you want to
names?
correct. It can also help you appreciate what you do well and what you want to do more of.
Step 9. Community and competition.
This can be one of the greatest joys of fighting games. The fighting game community is the name of the collective, but it's not monolithic. There are hundreds or thousands of Discord communities out there for fighting games. Some are game specific, some are character specific, some are geared towards
Yeah, I just want to say character-specific discords were a mistake, and they need to be banned legally. Like, why can't there just be one collective Discord with 50 characters? Why do I have to look and sometimes not even find a character Discord? I don't, because I don't have to. But for newer players, Googling these character Discords and they, one, don't exist, or two, are super difficult to find where they don't even pop up on a Google search, trash. If you just had one big Discord that everybody gathered in, it'd be much easier. Just play that, like if they made an official BlazBlue Discord, dude, and it just had all the character tabs in there. You click the character, they have some subsections, right? Guides, combos, matchups, whatever. That'd be easier than, oh, let me Google this and maybe not even find it.
it's folks you meet through these communities or your own network of friends. Playing fighting games against someone you know is so good. For me, knowing who's on the other side of the connection completely obliterates the frustration and antagonism that I can feel playing against random online opponents. Partially because it's just more humanizing when you know that person, but also because you can ask questions and chat. If you're in a good community, your opponent isn't going to keep any secrets.
Nah,
Because
save
people
that
who
shit
have
for
decided that
nationals,
they
son.
want to get good at fighting games have signed an unspoken contract of mutual self-improvement.
Far be it from me to turn down a challenge.
Was that really Dudley's voice in 4?
And for a fellow pugilist.
Through your
I
community, or
don't
just by
remember his
being
voice
online,
sounding like
you might
that.
come across some online tournaments, and you should sign up for them. Tournaments are really cool. They offer you the chance to do a lot of things that you won't get. in
Man's
casual
name is
play.
respecting women.
First of all, it's one of the few times you and your buddies will step into that magic circle of competition, mutually and temporarily agreeing
The
to
power
set
of
aside the
nothing,
helpfulness
bros.
and just going all out. Seeing
Oh,
who
poor
will win.
guys.
If you're used
Good,
to mostly
good,
playing
dude.
friendlies, it's fun to try out a different vibe. The other useful thing is that it's fucking scary. At first. The first few times I did online tournaments, I literally got shaky and sweaty. I forgot my combos and I mashed buttons. But each time I did it, it got easier. And once you've played under pressure, you'll be better in casual settings. Random matchmaking doesn't get my heart rate up like it used to. Finally, a lot of tournaments are streamed on Twitch, which means you might get a chance to rewatch the VOD and hear someone commentate your match.
The boy
Like a
yikes.
lot of parts of the fighting game process, this can make you feel vulnerable, but a good commentator will put into clear terms what's going on, and that can be an incredible learning tool.
They're opening. They've proven they're pretty good at fighting out of the corner. Already, Doublemint now backthrown into the corner. Again, huge life deficit, but the other way around. Gets hit by the stomps. No, but drops it at the target combo.
Step 10. There is no end.
One of the many wonderful and intimidating things about fighting games is that there's no prescribed end goal for your participation. There's no final boss or end game treadmill. Even the best player in the world is only the best until someone surpasses them. No matter where you are in your journey, in some sense, you're still at the beginning. That means you won't always know the next step forward, but it also means you're never falling behind. And as long as you're on that path, learning and having fun, you're doing it right.
Okay, this video was... There's a couple points that I disagree with, but... You know, he had some pretty good points, right? Explained it pretty well. Kind of just like a general beginner's guide. Obviously, you know, there's some things I disagreed with. For example, you know, playing the hardest character in the game. And getting hate mail is actually pretty funny. Right? But yeah, this guy, Pat Gill, it's a good video. I gave it like a 7. 7.5? And like I said, results may vary from person to person, right? This guy was committed, right? I'm gonna spend all this time learning these characters. I don't care, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, he hit all the important points, like you're by yourself. You can't blame anybody else. Watch your matches to learn what happened, right? I don't agree with play people that are better than you, or I should say much better than you, as he had mentioned, because you're not gonna learn anything. If you're a beginner to a higher level or like mid level to lower, you're not gonna look at things and be like, oh, this is why X, Y, and Z happened. You're just gonna be like, I don't know why, what's happening. I'm just getting my ass kicked. You're gonna be stuck in a perpetual ass whooping, and you're not gonna learn anything, and it's gonna be very discouraging. I do not agree with that point, unless you have someone in your ear specifically saying why X, Y, and Z is happening and is teaching you as you go. But outside of that resource that not everyone has, you know. Yeah, so you gotta block proceeds to low parry, which is a hard read in tech. That's a hard ass read. And if you guess wrong, you're dying. Another important thing that I feel like he should have mentioned was learning a fighting game when it first comes out. I think it's one of the most important things you can do when it comes to pretty much any game in general, right? So you're not really playing catch up. You pick up Street Fighter 5 and there's what, like 50 characters in the game now, but on launch there's like 20. There's a lot of catch up you have to play if you don't pick up a game when it first comes out, and it could be very disorientating and intimidating to new players. You can add this part in there too, Chrome. Another big thing that Pat Gill forgot to mention was the fact that fighting games are not free to play. You have to commit to the purchase, which is very off-putting to a lot of people. And then when you commit to the purchase, right, if you want to learn certain matchups, you have to commit to fighting the character. Fighting games are very expensive to get into. They could be upwards to hundreds of dollars just to get into a fighting game. So you can learn matchups, different characters, try out other characters. Fighting games are expensive Very expensive. It's not a very good formula that they're following right now. Multiverse is a step on the right path, right? Rotating characters, free to play. You could buy them with in-game currency. It does take a while, but you do get there eventually if you play long enough. So yeah, that's another big thing about fighting games and just getting into them, right? It's their commitment. They really are. They take a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of stress, anger, pain. But if you do pass that point and collect $200, you will have fun.